What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of On the Break. We have a good one coming to you today. We're going to be talking about the season opener for the NBA. And Trevon, we have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about. We have a lot of teams in each conference that we're excited to see. So, for everyone watching, Tuesday, October 24th, that is the season opener. The Lakers, they play the Denver Nuggets, the reigning NBA champion Denver Nuggets at 7:30. That's on TNT. Then the nightcap for Tuesday is the matchup between the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors at 10 o'clock. That's also
That
on TNT.
that's in Golden State, right? Yeah, it's in Golden State.
It's in Golden
It's in
State.
Golden
Yep.
State. That's KD finally
Yeah,
going
it's in
back.
Golden State then. Yep. Let's go. It's gonna be a big
Yeah.
night. No, it's definitely gonna be a big night. Um, but yeah, so we're all excited for that. Looking forward to those two games there. So Trevon, let's take a step back and let's look at the whole Eastern Conference, and then we'll do the Western Conference as well. But for this video, let's look at the Eastern Conference. So Trevon, who is your favorite to win the East? This doesn't mean that they're going to win, but who is the team that you think should be the favorite going into this upcoming season?
Yeah, so it's been long enough that the off-season trades, the blockbuster trades were named, and a full preseason has gone through for us to kind of really settle down and be a little bit more objective to our predictions for this season. And just after all that, I think it has to be Boston, at least in my opinion. I feel like they pretty much kept the core guys that they've had over the years, if you exclude Marcus Smart. But those core guys between Tatum and Brown, you still have the veteran Al Horford. You still have a lot of those core players that you had. And you just pretty much swapped them, the ones that you did lose, for more talent. I feel like Drew Holiday is a really good player. I would put him a step above Marcus Smart. He can still do what Marcus Smart did. I think on the court, he can do a lot more as far as ability from an athletic standpoint, just his size and a better offensive skill set than Marcus Smart. You get that with Drew Holiday. And then you get some sort of rim protection with Kristaps Porzingis that you lost from Robert Williams, probably a little, a lot more length for sure. You do get some rim protection still. You get outside shooting, a wider offensive skill set that can help fit this team. So I think just those two pieces right there are part of what puts Boston over the top for me. I think you get a more complete team. You still have Derek White, who's a very good defensive player. He can play in spots, play off of people. And I feel like they are just a team that should get that respect in that regard. When you look at like a Milwaukee Bucks, that continuity isn't there quite yet. It's going to have to develop over the season. And I think Boston already has that with just two big pieces that they added. So when I look at them, I feel like they are just as good as Milwaukee. And just for the reasons I mentioned earlier, I think that puts them a step above them and the rest of the Eastern Conference for me. So I'm expecting them to be my favorites out of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think when we look at the Eastern Conference, it comes down to really two teams that when you're looking at who's going to be the favorite, it's going to be between Milwaukee and Boston. And I think Milwaukee definitely has a case to be the favorite, especially with the moves that they just made this in the trade to get Damian Lillard. But
Yeah.
for me, looking at Boston, they have a lot of high end players in all positions, especially in their starting five. And then coming off the bench, they might not be as strong as they used to be in past years in terms of depth of talent, but they still have a lot of really good players to come off the bench and spell for their starting five. And when you look at those players in particular, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Porzingis, over the course of a season, at least, two, three of those players will be playing over the course of that season, which I think will help them if somebody is injured or somebody's trying to recover from a back-to-back or things like that over the course of a season. Obviously, you can't just sit players like you did in past seasons due to the
Yeah,
new rules set in place. But over the course of a season, people get hurt. There's things that happen. You always have a player with that high end ability that you can put out there on a nightly basis. So I think the depth of their top end talent is going to help throughout the course of the season. And I just think that with the moves they made, especially getting Drew Holiday, having Al Horford there, I think that is a great tandem to be able to match up with the Bucks in terms of guarding Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. But that's it's easier said than done to guard that tandem. But I think having Drew Holiday, who has had success guarding Damian Lillard in the past, and having Al Horford, even though he's older, who has had success guarding Giannis in the past, and that head-to-head matchup is going to be Boston is going to have a good opportunity to be able to match up with the Milwaukee Bucks. So in the head-to-head matchup, I think the Boston Celtics have a good opportunity, and then against everybody else in the East, I think Boston has a really good opportunity. So I'm gonna have to go with Boston as well.
yeah, definitely. And then also I know this Eastern Conference video, they're not just competing with Milwaukee, but that's the competition that they're looking straight in the eye right now, in my opinion. When it comes down to it, that's who we're expecting to be there at the end. There's a dark horse with, the James Harden situation floating around that could shake some things up. But right now, I think it's pretty much a two-team race, or it should be. And also, you can't forget just like new head coach situation in Milwaukee, and just all that stuff is going to be new to them. I feel like with Boston, it's a little bit more, it's not as new as I think it would be with Milwaukee, because Milwaukee's taking on a whole nother star. So you're trying to figure out that tandem between two stars, whereas Boston, they already have the two people that they know they're going to lean on, especially in the playoff time. So I think that's a very important dynamic to look at too. And Missoula has already kind of got that first year out of his way. So I think he went on JJ Redick's podcast and just spoke about how everything was so quick. He had to learn everything on the fly, and how he'll actually have time to really do training camp his way and be confident in what he's trying to get his players and get everybody on the same page. So I think that's a big part of why I got them as my favorites as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And Missoula's, like you said, going on his second season as a head coach, and actually being able to establish some things there. I think he's going to be better than he was last year, learning from those things. And Adrian Griffin, I think he's going to be good for the Milwaukee Bucks as the head coach there. But like you just said, he may have some growing pains that he has to go through, like Missoula did last season. But I think he's up for the task, though, especially with having Damian Lillard and Giannis there. Okay, so now that we have the favorite, Trevon, who is your, I guess, sneaky team in the East? So when I say sneaky team, I'm not saying somebody that is just going to come out of nowhere and win the whole, win the championship, but a team in the East that some people might think that they are not going to be as good, or they might be towards the bottom of the standings, but they actually will be competitive this year, and they can win on any given day of the NBA season, and give teams fits. Who's that team for you?
Yeah, I got Indiana, and in our team preview for them, I used the words of, I felt like they could have a similar season to how the Sacramento Kings had. Not saying that they would get the third seed in the Eastern Conference, but I think they can be one of those top six secure teams. I feel like when you know who your future is and you sign on Tyrese Halliburton to a big contract, you have Bruce Brown, who just won a championship, so you get championship pedigree over there. Benedict Mathurin, a young player, a young explosive guard who can put the ball in the hole. You still have Buddy. You still got Miles Turner, who can play that center position and compete at that position for you. That's a very important position for every team, obviously. I just feel like they have a chance to make some noise and actually kind of reach what their potential is. I feel like they will be able to compete with, for sure, like a Cleveland I feel like they can compete with a New York, a Brooklyn if needed, maybe more so New York and Brooklyn and the rest of the teams below that. I feel like they can be right there. I feel like they can win on any given night competitively. And I feel like this would be the year that we see them back in that playoff type basketball. I think they're for sure a lock in that play-in, but I think they can sneak into that 5 and 6 spot also. I just think they have the tools of what it takes. I don't think that they lack many things on their roster, and I feel like this is the year they're going to get it done.
No, that's a good pick. And I know in the team preview, I had said I don't think that they can make the top six, but after watching them over the course of the preseason, definitely see where you're coming from. And it is definitely a possibility. Their play in the preseason has looked pretty good, in my opinion, just based off of the main guys that are going to be playing. But for me, I'm going to go with the Orlando Magic in the East as my sneaky team to maybe surprise some people, or be a team that can win on any given night and give some teams more fits than they would have thought. I think that they have a really good shot at making the play-in this year after not making it last year. I think Paolo Banchero is going to have a really good year to build off of his Rookie of the Year season he had last year. And then you also think about Franz Wagner, who I think is going to take another jump in his game. He's improved every single year. I think he's going to be possibly a 25 and 10 kind of guy this season as well. So I think that the Orlando Magic have a really good shot. They're a really good young team that's up and coming. Markel Fultz has played very well last season, especially after all the things he's gone through in his early NBA career. So I think the Orlando Magic has a chance to be a really good sneaky team in the East.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. Young, up and coming. In their team preview, we kind of acknowledge them in that same category that we have expectations for as far as like an Oklahoma City Thunder. So I think they have, like, going forward, they're going to be a team to reckon with. And I feel like they're really doing a good job of just bringing in pieces together. Palos, obviously, the headliner, but Franz Wagner is very productive and a great player also. So I like that pick too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they could have a similar season to what Oklahoma City had last season, when they made it to the play-in and all that stuff. So we'll
Yeah.
see, man. We'll see. So speaking of young players, or players that we expect to play very well this upcoming season, who is going to be the player that you're looking forward to seeing the most in the Eastern Conference? It could be an up and coming player. It could be a breakout, a guy that you think is going to break out, or it could be a guy in a new situation, or whatever the case may be, that you are looking forward to seeing the most.
Yeah. So for me, it's like a handful of players where if I see them or their team playing, I'm tuning in to watch them play. This season, it's obviously going to be Damian Lillard is obviously going to be one of those players for me. Like you said, a new situation. This is him paired with a player who we think is going to be an optimal pairing between the two. We expect greatness from the two. The first thing that pops into your mind is the pick and roll between Dame and Giannis, just two lethal players in the areas that they're going to operate in. But like we mentioned earlier, it will be some growing pains in Milwaukee through preseason. I've seen Dame have to guard players and be on the ball, be point of attack. That's not his strong suit. I didn't see too many positives from him in that particular spot, guarding the ball defensively. I think he does need to be a little bit more active. So, for reasons of what I expect their offensive ceiling to be, for his production to be, what he's done historically in Portland, and what it will require him to improve on and just be better at, I really want to see how he adapts to this. I want to see if he can do it. I want to see what he looks like on a contended team. I want to see what he looks like on a team that is expected to win and even win the championship. He even said in his media day press conference that he's always been in an underdog situation. He's never had a situation like this. So considering all those things, I just want to see how he's going to respond to this. I want to see how he's going to perform because I believe in him. He's a top 75 player, and I want to see some positivity. I want to see him have that opportunity to compete for a championship. There's no doubt they're going to be in the playoffs, the top 3 seed, I would believe, without injuries and things like that. But I want to see how Dame plays, and I'm expecting greatness from him. So I'm going to tune in pretty much every night I can to watch him play this season. So I'm really looking forward to watching Dame play.
Yeah, no, that's a really good pick. I think a lot of people are looking forward to seeing Damian Lillard in this new situation where he has a legitimate shot to win a championship. I think a lot of people have wanted to see him in this situation and see him have a really good chance with another superstar on his team to make some noise in the NBA. So I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm gonna be right beside you watching every game I can of Damian Lillard and Giannis and the rest of the Bucks team. But for me, I'm gonna go with go kind of a different route. And I'll shout out a few people that I considered, like Drew Holiday. I was really thinking about putting him on there, kind of a similar situation to Dame in terms of he's in a new place, all that good stuff, veteran, really respected around the league. I thought about going the route of Paolo Banchero, who was rookie of the season last year. I think he's going to have a really good season. Or Franz Wagner on that team as well with the Orlando Magic. But I'm going to go with Tyrese Maxey. I'm going to go with a player that has
I
been
like that.
creeping up and has been up and coming. But now this season, especially with the whole James Harden situation in Philly, I think that he's going to take another step and have the opportunity to have the ball in his hands more and actually show us what he can do. He's already shown us stuff that he can do, shown us flashes, but I think over the course of a season, he's just going to get more opportunities. And I think he's going to do well, especially alongside Joel Embiid, who's going to already be demanding a lot of attention from defenses. And I think it's a really good pairing. And looking at this, looking at the 76ers lineup, I think that they are still in a really good position to compete in the East. You still have Harris there. You still have PJ Tucker. You, of course, obviously Joel Embiid. I think Tyrese Maxey coming out and getting more opportunities and showing us the player he can be over the course of a season. I think he's going to have a breakout season, and I'm looking forward to it. So that's the player that I'm looking forward to seeing this upcoming season in the East.
Yeah. And just to kind of like support that, such to support Tyrese Maxey, like I've said a lot of times, even when James was there from the past 2 seasons, I would have liked to see the ball in Tyrese Maxey's hands a lot more than it was. I understand James has that superstardom, maybe not on that level anymore, but he does have that cachet of you want the ball in his hands. He was a top player in assists. I think he led the league in assists last year, and he was always in that top assist rank for each season. But I felt like the flow wasn't there. I felt like the offense was pretty stagnant. I didn't think there was much variation in it. I think Harden's only two go-to moves were pick and roll with Embiid or ISO step back. I feel like with Tyrese Maxey, there's a lot more flow, a lot more pace. So I'm very excited to watch him be in a better role or being more the front or more of a scoring role than not having to play second fiddle to James Harden. Once again, understandable, but I feel like there were times where you could have gotten more out of that Philly team if you went through Tyrese Maxey, who is a younger player, probably has more twitch to him, especially now. Still has that offensive ability, probably a better threat at times than James Harden was. And if they do go that route, there's a potential that you could see that in the playoffs, which is a particular time where you saw James Harden struggle a lot of the time. So I think there's a lot of upside with going the route of Maxey and just giving him those keys and that opportunity. Even on another podcast, I heard them talk about how each year the situation wasn't really stable or consistent from him. He was always having to adjust. So I feel like if he's able to just lock in on a role nobody's going to do, he'll be very capable of providing that second scoring that you need. And he's been pretty good with all the changes that he's had to go through and all the adjustments he had to deal with. So just him being that second scorer to Embiid, I think that can keep the Philadelphia 76ers a respectable and threatening team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, no, and I kind of like the dynamic between Embiid and Tyrese a little better than the James Harden Embiid pairing. It's a little redundant in terms of Embiid and Harden getting fouled a lot. You know, a lot of people would call it foul baiting, but you know, they get to the free throw line a lot. They draw a lot of fouls, and it's sufficient. I'm not trying to knock on that style of play or whatever, but I think having Tyrese, who is going to be more getting up and down the floor a little more, he's faster with the ball. You know, James was a little more take my time, let's get, you know, to my step back or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Tyrese is going to be attacking more spots on the floor, and I think that will help with breaking down defenses a little more and giving Joel more opportunities to just get easier baskets. But also with Tyrese, I think he's just gonna create more opportunities for everybody on the floor. So it's gonna not only gonna be more fun to watch,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a little more effective, especially in playoff time and things like that.
I agree with you on that fun part, man. Like I've always felt like Philly was a team I should be excited to watch play, but I just didn't always enjoy watching them for that simple fact of what I was talking about with just the flow and the pace. I felt like it was just so stagnant. It was what was that game they played? They played Brooklyn before Kyrie got traded when Brooklyn came into
Mm,
town.
yeah,
And it was
I know
just
exactly what you're
so
talking about.
yeah, they didn't have any flow. It was just Embiid trying to get to the line, and it was just too much stoppage. I didn't really
Mhm.
enjoy the brand of basketball that was, on display between
That's when
Harden and
Harden
Embiid all the
first got
time.
traded, right? I think that was
Was
two
that when he
seasons ago,
first got
right?
traded? That was two
I
seasons
think
ago.
so. Yeah, because that was the whole
Yeah,
like thing, like Kyrie, and that was when Ben Simmons wasn't playing, and Kyrie and
yeah,
KD like had his back and was
yeah, and
like
that's two
going
seasons ago.
at Philly. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that that sticks out to my mind just pretty much shows that that's how I view that team. It's pretty much been the same brand of basketball. And I don't know if the coaching dynamic was real good with between Harden and James. I think there was a little bit of tension there and not
Mhm.
really figuring out what to do, but it just wasn't much flow to that offense. And I didn't personally enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to a different brand of basketball in Philly, hopefully.